In the days when Olympus still cast its shadow upon the earth, many people would be wondering where Olympus is, or what happens in Olympus. Well, it's the imagined divine palace city the ancient Greeks believed floated high above the peak, hidden in the clouds. Think of it as the heavenly headquarters of the gods, the mythical Olympus, floated above the clouds, invisible and unreachable to mortals. It was perfect, peaceful, and untouched by storms or death. From here, the gods looked down on earth, sending blessings or punishments, interfering in wars, or shaping the fates of humans, but we would not be talking about that today. When gods shaped the fates of men as potters shape clay, a child was born who would walk the path of both glory and doom. His name was Achilles, son of Peleus, mortal king of Tyre, and Thetis, a goddess of the sea whose voice could calm storms, the sea goddess. Thetis was so beautiful that even Zeus and Poseidon wanted her, but a prophecy warned her son would be greater than his father. Fearing disaster, the gods married her off to a mortal hero, Peleus, king of Tyre. When Peleus tried to claim her, Thetis used her powers to escape, turning into fire, water, animals, even a bird. But Peleus held on tight through every change, until at last she gave in. They wed in a grand feast on Olympus, where all the gods gathered. From their union came a child destined for glory, Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Trojan War. From the moment of his birth, the fates whispered of greatness. He shall be the strongest of all mortals, swift as the west wind, terrible as fire upon the battlefield. But his life, his life shall be short, a flame that burns too brightly to last. Thetis, hearing this prophecy, trembled with a mother's fear. She was divine. She knew too well the cruelty of destiny. Desperate to save her child, she carried him in secret to the river Styx, the black water that flowed through the underworld. Its currents were feared even by the gods, for they bound oaths and forged power. The Styx flowed through the underworld and formed the boundary between the realm of the living and the dead, souls of the dead had to cross it to reach Hades. The ferryman Charon carried souls across the Styx in his boat, but only if they had a coin for payment, usually placed in the mouth of the dead as a burial rite. Charon represents the inevitability of death. He's not cruel, but he is unyielding. He doesn't choose who gets to cross. He only enforces the rules of the underworld. Charon is the boatman who carries souls across the boundary, between life and death. Under the cover of night, Thetis dipped her son into the icy torrent. The river roared, its waters clinging to his skin, hardening him against spear and arrow, sword and fire. But where her fingers pinched him at the small heel of his foot, the water never kissed. That heel remained soft, mortal, and frail. Thetis did not see, or if she did, she believed it small, unworthy of worry. And so Achilles grew. From boyhood, his spirit blazed. He was taught by Chiron the centaur, who trained heroes upon Mount Pelion. Chiron was the wisest and most noble of all centaurs. Chiron was famous as a teacher, healer, and mentor. When Thetis wanted Achilles to become the greatest warrior, she sent him to be trained by Chiron. Under Chiron's guidance, Achilles learned not just how to fight, but how to balance strength with wisdom. The bow, the spear, the lyre, and the art of war were placed in Achilles' hands, and he mastered them as though born for nothing else. The lyre represented harmony, wisdom, and balance, qualities the Greeks admired. That's why Chiron taught Achilles not only the spear, warfare, but also the lyre, arts. So Achilles could be both a warrior and a cultured hero. Chiron fed him the marrow of lions and boars, teaching him the strength of beasts. Soon, no youth of Greece could match him in speed, in courage, in rage. But his mother, still fearful, tried once more to bend his fate. When the call to war came, the great expedition against Troy, Thetis dressed Achilles in the garb of a maiden and hid him among the daughters of King Lycomedes. Yet even fate wears a crown. The wily Odysseus came with gifts of jewels and silk, but also shield and spear. Odysseus was king of Ithaca, a small but strategic island in Greece, husband of Penelope and father of Telemachus, famous not just for his strength, but for his intelligence, cleverness, and trickery. Odysseus fought as one of the great Greek leaders in the Trojan War. Odysseus embodied strategy, patience, and wit. And when the disguised Achilles reached not for gold, but for the warrior's steel, his secret was revealed. The boy of prophecy could not hide. To Troy he went, and there his name shook the earth. Troy controlled access between the Aegean and Black Seas, making it a strategic trade and military hub. This made it both wealthy and a tempting target for conquest, which might explain why legends of a great war grew around it. The war itself began when Paris, Prince of Troy, abducted or seduced Helen, the Queen of Sparta, who was said to be the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris went on a diplomatic mission in Sparta. That was when he saw Helen and fell in love with her. But Helen was already married to Menelaus, king of Sparta. Paris abducted her against her will, seizing her and carrying her off to Troy while Menelaus was away. On hearing this, Helen's husband, Menelaus, and his brother Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, called upon all the Greek kings and heroes to honor and oath they had once sworn to defend Helen's marriage. This oath bound many leaders, including Odysseus, Ajax, and Achilles, to join the expedition against Troy. And that was how the conquest of Troy by the Greeks started. When the Greek ships landed upon the shores, it was Achilles who surged first into battle. His armor blazed like the rising sun. His voice was thunder rolling across the plain. Men fell before him like wheat under the sickle. No wall could contain him. No champion of Troy could withstand him. He was more than mortal. He was a storm of bronze and fury. The war raged for years, and with each passing season, the songs of Achilles grew louder. His wrath was unmatched, yet so too was his pride. When Agamemnon, lord of kings, insulted him, Achilles withdrew from battle, and the Greeks faltered. Only when his beloved companion, Patroclus, fell to Hector's spear did Achilles return to the fight. Hector was the eldest son of King Priam and Queen, brother of Paris, husband of Andromache and father of a young son, Astyanax. Hector was the greatest warrior and defender of Troy. He commanded the Trojan army with unmatched skill and was respected by both Trojans and Greeks for his courage and honor. Hector fought mainly out of duty to his city, family, and people. When news of Patroclus' death reached Achilles, his grief turned to fury. He swore vengeance, knowing that fate itself was pulling him toward his own death. Achilles' armor gleamed like fire as he rode back to battle, a godlike force. The Trojans, seeing him storm across the plain, scattered in terror. All but Hector. Though fear gripped him, Hector stood alone before the Scaean gates, the last defense of Troy. At first, Hector's courage faltered. When Achilles charged, spear raised high, Hector's heart pounded, and he fled. 3 times they circled the walls of Troy, Achilles in relentless pursuit, faster than the wind, while Zeus and the gods watched from Olympus, weighing the fates of both men. Finally, Athena, disguised as Hector's brother, tricked him into stopping. Hector turned to face Achilles. Realizing the gods had abandoned him, his honor demanded he fight. The 2 warriors stood, titans of the age, the ground shaking beneath their steps. Hector spoke first, offering a pact: whichever man fell, the victor must return the body for proper burial. But Achilles, blinded by rage, refused. There are no oaths between lions and men, he growled. They clashed with spear and shield, bronze ringing like thunder. Hector hurled his spear, but Athena deflected it. When he turned for another weapon, he found nothing, his fate sealed. Achilles' spear struck true, piercing Hector's neck. Hector fell, gasping for breath, and with his last words, begged Achilles to return his body to Troy. But Achilles, consumed by fury, denied him. He lashed Hector's body to his chariot and dragged it before the walls of Troy, as Priam, Andromache, and the people wailed in horror. It was the most brutal duel of the war, not just a battle of strength, but of fate, pride, and vengeance. The gods themselves watched with trembling hands, for Achilles' strength was becoming too great, his rage too fierce. Even Zeus, lord of thunder, murmured that the boy's life could not last. And so, destiny crept closer. On a day when the battle roared hottest, Paris, prince of Troy, weak of arm but keen of eye, was guided by Apollo, god of the bow. From the battlements, Paris drew his arrow. It was no spear of heroes, no weapon forged by Hephaestus, but a simple shaft of wood and bronze. Yet the gods had chosen its path. The arrow flew, swift and unseen, whistling through the chaos of war. It found the one place upon Achilles' body left unguarded. The heel, the tender flesh where Thetis' fingers had once clutched her infant son. The shaft pierced. Achilles staggered. His spear clattered to dot the ground, his knees buckled. A silence fell over the plain as the invincible warrior, the flame of Greece, collapsed upon the earth. Blood seeped into the dust. His eyes, once fire, dimmed. The fates cut the final thread. And there he lay, Achilles, greatest of mortals, undone not by armies, nor by gods, but by a single, hidden weakness. From that day, the tale of the Achilles heel was carried by poets and whispered by kings. It became a truth carved into the hearts of men, that no matter how mighty, no matter how blessed, every hero bears a shadow of fragility. And in that shadow, destiny waits. Like and subscribe.